Alright, so in this video what I'd like to do is take a quick look at some statistical properties of some data. So what I've done is I've created a data set here, and I'm just going to explain what I did. So if I copy and paste this down here, what you can see is I'm calculating a random set of values between 0 and 1. So that's what rand does. So if I'm just going to, let's actually just deconstruct this into single commands. So rand of 20 comma 1 gives me 20 random numbers that are decimal point positive numbers between 0 and 1. So if I take those numbers and I multiply them by 10, I get integers between 0 and 10. Or sorry, not integers, whole numbers between 0 and 10. So actual numbers between 0 and 10. And then what I want to do is I want to turn them into integers, so I'm going to round those values afterwards. So if I'd say round of those, I'm going to get integer values now between 0 and 10. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say if I have that data, I'm going to start applying statistical analyses to them. So this integer data set. And I'm going to say that the number of data points is n here, which is the length of my data. So let's start by calculating the average value of the data. So if I wanted to calculate the average value, or the mean value maybe is a better way to say it, let's say that the mean calc is equal to the sum of my data divided by how many data points I've got. So that was the definition of the mean calculation. And I'm going to say the mean Matlab is equal to mean of the data, like this. I'm going to actually output to screen, so no semicolons in this code. I'm going to just type pause after this. Then I'm going to say let's move on from the mean and calculate the variance. So calculate variance of the data. And to do this, I'm going to say the var calc, which is the variance calculation, is equal to, in this case I need to be a little bit careful, so I'm going to say data minus mean of the data, which we just calculated. And we're going to square all of that. And then what we said was we were going to sum all of this. And then we were going to divide by 1 over, or we're going to multiply by 1 over n, or 1 over n minus 1. And it turns out in this code that we're going to use n minus 1 because MATLAB does the sample calculation, or the sample variance. So I'm going to actually use little n's here to be consistent with what we've done before. I'm going to say var MATLAB is equal to the VAR of the data. So simply like that. So if we forgot the variance calculation or the command in MATLAB, we could write our own code. Not too hard, but it's easier to just remember what MATLAB does. So I'm going to pause after that one. And then the one I'm going to run before, or the thing I'm going to do before I run next, is the standard deviation calculation and the standard deviation in MATLAB. So in MATLAB, it's STD of the data. And for us, it would be the square root of this term here, or the square root of the variation calculation, like this. So we're going to run this now, and we're going to see how this works. So in this case, the mean value was 5. The variance in this case was 6.31, and the standard deviation was 2.51. And that's our data set. If I run this again, I get the same value for the mean, and I roll on. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to increase the number of data points to 200. We're going to hit run. And what we can see is the mean is still close to 5. The variance is large, and the standard deviation is there. Okay, so we've got our data. And what I'm going to do next is I'm actually going to move on to some of the other properties of the data that we could calculate. So I'm going to say, let's calculate the range of the data. And the range in this case, I could say is range calc is equal to the maximum value of the data minus the minimum value of the data, which should just be the same as the range in Matlab, which I'm going to say is range of the data, like that. I'm going to pause after that one. And then let's see if we can get another one, which would be, let's do the median value of the data. And what I'm going to say is I'm going to say temp data for this one is equal to sort rows, I believe is the right command. In fact, I'm just going to type it down here. So help sort rows. So it does have a sort rows function here. So what I want to do in the median is I want to sort the values from smallest to largest. So I want to sort rows of the data. And then what I want to say is after I've done that, I want to find the middle value. So I'm going to say, in this case, I have an even number. So I'm going to say I need to find the middle value or the middle two values and average them together. So let's actually do that. So I'm going to say the median is equal to, and I'm going to say this is actually going to be some tricky code here. So I'm going to say floor, so the bottom value of the n divided by 2. In fact, if I have n divided by 2, that's going to be 100 divided by 2 is going to be 50. So I can take the, let's see, I think I can take the middle point and be okay with this. Let's see if I get this right. So I'm going to say, let's take the data, temp data of n divided by 2. Let's see what actually happens. And I'm going to say, so that's median calc, and median Matlab is going to equal to the median of the data. So this one might actually be easier for us to do in Matlab. So let's hit run. The mean value, the variance, the standard deviation, the range. So we got a value between 0 and 10. And then the last one is the median calc, which worked out for us on this one, which was around 6. So what that tells us is that if we sorted our data, so let's take a look at our temp data here, we can see that the data is sorted in such a way that the middle value was a 6 in this case. So let's hit run again. Let's see what happens if anything changes on this one. So the median value on this one was 5. So that seems to have worked out well. We might want to be a little bit careful with odd and even data on this one, so I'm not doing such a great job on this. But you get the point on how it might work. And then let's see, the final one is the mode of the data. And all I'm going to do in this case is I'm just going to use the Matlab mode. So I'm going to say mode Matlab is equal to mode of the data. So what is the most frequent number in the data? So let's hit run and press enter, enter, enter. And if I look at this one, the mode here, the most frequent number is the number 3. So if we actually look at our data, in fact, I like temp data because it actually allows us to see what's going on. We can see that the value 3 seemingly has a pretty large number of 3s, whereas the other ones are a little bit smaller in terms of their frequency. So a little bit lower frequency of appearance. So we've been able to calculate the variance, the range, the median, the standard deviation, the mode, the mean, and I think that pretty much covers all of the terms that we would want to calculate. I'm just going to quickly type in here help RMS, and what you can see is that Matlab has an RMS function as well, so the root mean squared. So let's actually just do the root mean squared as well. And if you remember, the root mean squared tells us it's a useful quantity to calculate if you have a mean of a function is 0, but you're interested in the actual non-zero mean of that particular function. So like the power or the current in an AC setting. You don't want a sine wave to have an average value of 0. You'd want to calculate the root mean square. So RMS in this case, we're going to say RMS calc is going to equal to the square root of the mean of the value squared, like this, and the RMS Matlab is equal to, RMS of the data, like this. So I'm going to hit run, like this, and hopefully we see everything is kind of matching. We finally get down to the mode down here, and then we look at the RMS value, and there we go, we get the same RMS value, so the root mean squared. So this example here just basically goes through some of the Matlab commands that you might see used in statistics or in probability and statistics when used in Matlab. So a lot of the built-in commands are there. You can write them yourself. Probably good practice. But hopefully this helps you understand the commands, but also helps you understand how to use Matlab to do statistical calculations at the very basic level. All right, so good luck with this and have fun with some of these commands.